So, can we start? Okay. Greetings. Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are around the globe, all our participants in today's webinar. Thank you for joining us and welcome to the 4th edition of Beth David's International Webinar. My name is Aregash Samuel. I'll be moderating the session today. We are very excited that on this webinar today, there are not only nutritionists, dietitians, medical doctors, researchers, teachers, lecturers, immunologists, biostatisticians, but also we have professionals in sales, insurance, finance, customer service, students, etc. So before going into the details of the meeting, let me tell you the housekeeping rules. All participants are on mute and kindly keep yourself on mute to avoid interference with the speakers per time. Also type your questions. You are very welcome to type your questions in the chat box and we will answer as many questions as possible at the end of the presentations. So you will be allowed to unmute yourself during the Q&A session. Kindly note that this webinar is being recorded and we are streaming live on our Facebook page. Once again, thank you for being here. Saying this, I would like to introduce you our first speaker, Dr. Zahra Faranak. So before giving the floor to Dr. Zahra, let me tell you who Dr. Zahra is. Dr. Zahra Faranak is a researcher with an interdisciplinary background and training in both preclinical and clinical studies. Dr. Zahra graduated with BSc in Nutrition, Masters in Public Health in Nutrition from Tehran University of Medical Sciences, and PhD in Physical Activity Science from University of Montreal in Canada. During her PhD, she investigated the effect of exercise training on cholesterol and bile acid metabolism in ovarectomized rats as an experimental model of postmenopausal state. Subsequently, she did her postdoc fellowship at McGill University and the Montreal Heart Institute. Her main research focus during her fellowship in the School of Human Nutrition at McGill University was to investigate the effects of omega-3 fatty acids on musculoskeletal health of both human and animal studies. During the fellowship at the Montreal Heart Institute, she was a member of a multidisciplinary research team to study the effect of lifestyle intervention, including nutrition and exercise, on cognition in older adults with cardiovascular risk factors. Currently, she is a senior research fellow at Faculty of Applied Health Sciences at Brock University, studying the benefits of engaging in prescribed healthy lifestyles that emphasizes regular exercise and a nutrient and health span in senior population, and also investigating through which mechanisms these benefits exert. She has authored high-quality peer-reviewed publications and has presented her work at various national and international conferences. In addition to her extensive research background, Dr. Faranak also worked as a dietitian and diabetes educator back in her country, Iran. So, saying this, I would like to welcome once again our participants and Dr. Zahra. And thank you, Dr. Zahra, for being us today. I hand over the floor to you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for your introduction. I'm happy to be here, and thank you all for coming. So I'm just going to share my slide here with everyone. Okay, so as Aregash mentioned, I'm going to talk about overnutrition and and non-communicable disease. The outline of my talk is about, like, I am going to start with malnutrition, the glossary, what is malnutrition, what is overnutrition, the association between overnutrition and non-communicable disease, and also if there is any link between overnutrition or immune system. More specifically, I'm going to address the COVID-19, and then what's the guideline and a strategy or policy that help us to like cope with malnutrition in general, and then the summary at the end. So malnutrition is a broad term. So according to WHO, malnutrition refers to deficiency, excesses, or imbalance in one individual's intake of energy and or nutrient. So it's like address three different conditions. It can be undernutrition, which is called as a wasting, a stunning, or like underweight. The opposite situation can be overnutrition, which is referred as overweight and obesity, and also it's linked to non-communicable disease. And also we have another form of malnutrition, which called as micronutrient-related malnutrition, which usually there is a specific form of the vitamin or mineral, which there is a deficiency or excess in our body. So, as I mentioned, overnutrition is one form of malnutrition that comes from excess intake of energy or nutrient, and that results on abnormal excess fat accumulation in our body, which ultimately, through the impairment in different metabolic pathway in our body, can impact our overall health. Abnormal or excessive fat accumulation called as overweight and obesity, and then this obesity through the impairment of different metabolic pathways, as I mentioned, can cause insulin resistance and can be developed to diabetes and cardiovascular disease, hypertension, which we all call them as a non-communicable disease. And also it's important to keep in mind that overnutrition happens when there is imbalance between energy intake and energy expenditure. What does it mean? It means that either you are eating more than you need, or you are actually expending the energy or you're less active. So there is two sides, and it's important to keep the balance. So it's a matter of healthy diet and being physically active. So that keeps us the balance, and that prevent of overweight, obesity. And the point is, there is not the malnutrition overall, or even overweight and obesity is not specific for one country. Every country in the world is suffer from one form of malnutrition. In 2016, we have 1.9 billion adults that they were overweight and obese. More than 60 million were exactly obese. They had obesity, but at the same time, we have 62 million adults that they were underweight. Half of them were women at the reproductive age. But at the same time, at the end, you can see also children that they may suffer from the undernutrition or overnutrition. So as you can see, we have both like adult and children that can suffer from the malnutrition, and there is both times, sometimes at the same time. So you can see that this is not a specific for one country for one region. It's a worldwide problem. So that's why WHO aims for a world free of all form of malnutrition. According to 2016 to 2025 nutrition strategy, WHO works with all sectors and partner to create a platform to be able to have effective nutrition intervention, which bring for all the people to be able to achieve health and well-being. So that's very important. And why more specifically overnutrition is important? Because first of all, as you see, the obesity or overweight is a growing problem worldwide. And at least 75% of all deaths are contributed some sort to our nutrition, to our diet, overnutrition and obesity, and also the non-communicable disease, which called as obesity. Obesity per se is considered as a non-communicable disease as well. Obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, they are all sort of non-communicable disease. According to WHO, non-communicable related disease deaths are projected to increase by 15% globally till 2030. But there are certain areas in the world that we are expected to have a higher number, close to 20%, such as Africa, Southeast Asia, and also Mediterranean region. So as you can see, non-communicable disease or overnutrition is not just specified for developed country. We can see the growth and the pattern of their growth in low and even like middle income countries as well. The percentage of death due to non-communicable disease is increasing in developing country as well. And like 40% of total death is happening in developing country. And that's happening because of the transition that we can see at all levels in this like area, and that changed their lifestyle. And they get away from their traditional like diet and lifestyle that they have. The traditional diet is usually considered as a healthy diet. They are usually rich in fiber, fruits, and vegetables. They are low in fat and sodium and sugar. But then they switch to type of Western diet, which is characterized by like higher intake of energy, saturated fat, sugar, sodium, and all this happening because the country is changing. They are developing, they have better economy. They are having product that they didn't use before. So it's changing their lifestyle, and all of this happening that we have along with being less physically active. The people spend more time behind the desk, watching more hours, like watching TV. So you see the lifestyle is changing, and all this are happening together, and that considered as non-communicable disease that is like directly related to our lifestyle. And also we have other unhealthy lifestyle behavior that happens during this transition, like a stressful lifestyle, how to manage their stress, and they have higher consumption of alcohol, which all ultimately lead to overweight and obesity, and that increase the risk of non-communicable disease. So I just want to emphasize that non-communicable disease, overnutrition problem, or obesity is not specified for developed country. It's increasing also in developing country as well, and it all happening because of the change of lifestyle. So it's directly related to our lifestyle, especially like our nutritional intake, and also to amount that how much we are active in our life. And the problem even gets complicated and huge when we can see that like this problem of nutrition, obesity, increasingly being reported from the country that still we have hunger and undernutrition over there, which is called as a coexistent double burden of malnutrition. What does it mean exactly? It means that double burden of malnutrition, according to WHO, is a situation that we have at the same time that we have undernutrition, we also have the people suffering from overnutrition and obesity, along with non-communicable disease. And it's not for, as I said, it's worldwide, it's not for a specific country. Every country suffers from at least one form of malnutrition. It can see within individual, household, and population. And it happens across the life course. So that's a huge problem. That's even makes the things more complicated, and it shows like the real action and policy that we need to be done. It's really need action. So when I was talking about overnutrition and its association with non-communicable disease, facing the COVID-19 coronavirus. So it's important to know if there is any association between overnutrition and COVID-19. According to recent studies, first of all, like overnutrition overall impair our immune system through different metabolic pathway that it can interfere, and it reduce our immune capacity, and that way we get like predisposed to infections such as COVID-19. Based on recent studies, this is 2020, it's from the UK population, and they found that both overweight and obesity were risk factor for severe COVID-19 infection. In addition to overweight and obesity, they also evaluate the level of physical activity, and they found that there is a protective association of physical activity and COVID-19. So that shows that simply by changing our lifestyle, having better nutrition and being physically active, we can protect ourselves against COVID-19. The things that happen that obesity per se can have adverse effect on our lung function, our respiratory system. The obese people compared to non-obese individual, they have reduced respiratory capacity. They have lower force volume capacity, expiratory volume. So their respiratory system cannot function properly. It's not in 100 function. So when they face COVID-19, so obviously compared to someone who are not obese, they are more prone to show the severe effect. This picture shows different pathway in our body that can be affected by obesity. Obesity as a result of our unhealthy lifestyle, including unhealthy nutrition, poor diet, or less physical activity, through different pathways, including our respiratory system, cardiovascular system, thrombotic pathway, can affect our immune system and our metabolic response. And ultimately, that result of severity from COVID-19 infection. The things that happen that their immune system gets hyperactive. It tries to combat the situation, but it's not function properly. And also different metabolic pathway in our body is disturbed. So at the end, they need extra work to combat the situation, which is not possible, especially for type of the virus that is directly target the respiratory and immune system. So that's why we have like more severe symptoms in the people who are obese or they have non-communicable disease when they are infected by COVID-19. So as you can see, the problem is huge. We really need global, and it's worldwide. So we really need global action. And the vision is we want to have a world free of overnutrition and communicable disease. And that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen like individually or by one part of the community or organization. It happens by multi-sectoral collaboration, cooperation at all levels, because the problem is huge, because it's at all levels, because it's affected all the world. So we need like contribution from all sectors, from all levels to combat the situation. I think my slide get freeze. I'm just trying to come to right one. Okay, there are several like principles and guidelines can help us to face the problem. One of them is a life course approach, which is very important. That's my favorite. I'm going to talk about that. So we need life course approach to combat malnutrition overall, and more specifically overnutrition. or non-communicable disease. There are other things that we can like empower of people and community, and mainly that happens through like there are a lot of pathways that can help and reach to this like goal, but one of them is to make the people to increase their knowledge, to make awareness, and like to have a knowledge about like what's the importance of these like overweight and this connection to other disease. So when they know like the problem, they can be open to intervention, other policies. So as you can see, we need multi-sectoral action. We need like the coverage of the health for all the people. There are all like the principles and guidelines that can help us at different level to combat malnutrition in general. But what is life course approach? A life course approach to overweight and non-communicable disease prevention is based on the idea that non-communicable disease and overnutrition can be prevented and controlled at multiple stages of the life course. So it needs action at different levels, but also it's very important if we want to do action, we would like to have a maximum beneficial effect. And the golden time to do this intervention, to start this intervention, is optimized nutrition early in life, because we know that our environment during early life influence like the risk of individual for overnutrition, obesity, and non-communicable disease later in life. So it's very important to have this approach, but also it's very important to do the action at the right moment to reach to the maximum benefits.
2 more minutes, Dr. Zahra.
Okay, thank you, sure. Life course approach of non-communicable disease, what does it mean? This slide shows the risk of the non-communicable disease, including nutrition, including obesity, overweight, and other non-communicable disease along the life course of life. We can see that we can do the intervention at different level, at different stage and level during the motherhood, infancy, childhood, adolescence, or later in life. But the golden time, as you can see, which considered as reproductive cycle, is the time that we can do for the mother, for the children, for the child or adolescence time. Because if that happens, as you can see, we can reduce the risk of non-communicable disease, and the chance to get back or to our low risk trajectory is higher compared the time that if we want to do that in adulthood or other time. And also, if we do the intervention, for instance, nutritional intervention during the childhood, adolescence, not only we correcting the non-communicable disease, reduce the risk of non-communicable disease for individual, we also reducing the risk for the next generation. So that shows the importance of early life intervention. It's a long-term investment, but the effect is huge and so valuable. So that's really golden time. And still we can take benefit if we do the intervention, for instance, for the people obviously who have a high risk or the people who have already suffered and the disease is established. But the chance, as you can see, to get back to our low risk trajectory is lower compared to early life intervention. So that shows the life course approach, which is very important. And this graph just shows that this is a cycle. If you cannot correct that, it just continue over and over. The young lady that doesn't have healthy lifestyle, doesn't have healthy nutrition, is not physically active, is obese, gets pregnant, still is not changing your lifestyle, already bring the baby that predisposed to non-communicable disease and overnutrition, because the genes like transfer from the mother, and is the environment that leads to overnutrition and non-communicable disease. So we need to break this cycle, and that shows why the early life intervention is very important. So according to United Nations Decade of Action in Nutrition Malnutrition 2016 to 25, we have 6 key areas that we need like for policy action, and they are all important. For instance, food system for healthy, sustainable. This is very important. During the COVID-19, we have a huge waste of the food, which prevent to reach the food to the people who are in need. So it's very important the food system acts like properly and functionally. So this is very simple things, but needs a lot of action to be able to act properly. And as also you can see, we have different policy that can help us to combat the situation. And also, I personally think that to address any kind of nutrition problem, malnutrition in general, and more specifically overnutrition, we need a holistic picture. So it's part of our lifestyle. This is not just about nutrition. We are correcting the nutrition, but also we can see effect on like improving the mental and social health. So that's a holistic picture. So we are not just correcting the nutrition. When we do the intervention for the nutrition, not only we affect the nutrition, but improve the nutritional status of the individual, we also improve his mental and social well-being. So that's the holistic approach that we need to have. And also, as I mentioned, this is for, especially for overnutrition and non-communicable disease, this is all about the balance, keep balance between nutrition intake and expenditure. So obviously having policy to have more green space in the community, encourage people to be more physically active, and so that all helps to keep this balance and prevent overnutrition, ultimately non-communicable disease. And also it's very important that in terms of empowering the people, we need to give them knowledge about the situation. When they have real understanding of the problem, they will be open to combat the situation intervention. And that shows the key role of dietitian nutritionist, which is the front line for awareness of the nutrition problem. So in nutshell, in conclusion, I can say the health burden of malnutrition in general is huge and is long-lasting for individual and community. So that's why we need multi-sectoral collaboration and cooperation at all levels. And also it's very important to address the overweight and non-communicable disease, and that needs life course approach. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Zahra, for taking us through your presentation. You have addressed a lot of very important points. You started from malnutrition, overnutrition, and about non-communicable disease, and about the double burden of malnutrition, and also the association between non-communicable disease and overnutrition, the association between overnutrition and immune system. And the very important point you addressed includes like how to combat, which is very interesting for, I think, for all of us. So the importance of having the life course approach, and the importance of breaking the cycle, and also the importance of early life intervention, a holistic approach of nutrition, which is very much, I think, very useful for almost all of the participants. And thank you very much, Dr. Zahra, for your nice presentation. Yes, without taking much, I will introduce you to our second speaker. Our second speaker is Dr. Shola. Dr. Olusola Sotunde is a trained nutritionist and a registered dietitian. Her interest in nutrition started at a very early age, and she has followed her passion post her bachelor's degree. Over the course of her career, she has practiced as a nutritionist, dietitian, lecturer, and researcher in various capacities and specialties. She obtained her MSc Nutrition and Dietetics from the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, where she investigated the relationship between maternal health profile and weight gain in pregnancy on the viability of the pregnancy outcome in a referral obstetrics and gynecology hospital in Nigeria, in Lagos State. She obtained her PhD in dietetics from Northwest University, South Africa, where she investigated the role of urbanization in increasing adiposity, associations between lean mass, fat mass, and bone health, and association between 25 OHD, PTH, and the metabolic syndrome in Black South African adults. Shola worked as a postdoctoral research fellow at the University of South Africa on the nutrition in pregnancy and early development study, assessing dietary intake and nutritional status of urban pregnant women in Johannesburg, South Africa, to determine associations with birth outcomes, maternal and offspring health. She completed another postdoctoral fellowship at the prestigious McGill University, Canada, where she investigated the long-term response of lean and fat mass to vitamin D interventions in neonates and paternal epigenetic inheritance, with emphasis on impact of nutritional status and dietary intake on the sperm epigenome and reproductive outcomes. Dr. Shola is presently the Senior Technical Advisor for Nutrition and Health at Beth Davids International. She is an alumnus of the esteemed African Nutrition Leadership Program and an enthusiastic advocate for the scaling up of nutrition-sensitive interventions for improved health outcomes of pregnant women, infants, children, and adults. She has authored many peer-reviewed publications in high-impact scientific journals and has presented her work at various national and international conferences. Having said this, I welcome once again Dr. Shola, and I hand over the floor to you, Dr. Shola. Please proceed with your presentation. Thank you.
So I just noticed that I was muted, so I'm back on. Thank you so much, Dr. Aregash, for the kind introduction, and I'll quickly get into it. And to Dr. Zahra, thank you so much for that beautiful overview and detailed information about overnutrition, non-communicable diseases, and the immune system. So this UNICEF conceptual framework, it's here, and it's like in every presentation I've been making recently, I keep it there. And for this purpose, particularly for today's topic, it's to remind us that even when inadequate dietary intake and disease are the immediate causes of malnutrition, food insecurity is one of the major underlying causes of malnutrition. And this is something that has been on the forefront since the start of this COVID pandemic worldwide. So while Zahra did a beautiful job of speaking about overnutrition and its relationship with the immune system, I'll be speaking, my focus is on undernutrition. And there are there could be four types of undernutrition, which could be either wasting, stunting, underweight, or micronutrient deficiencies. So for today, most of my focus will be on micronutrient deficiencies. So when I'm speaking about micronutrient deficiencies, there are some specific micronutrients that we already know the kind of non-communicable diseases that they bring to forth. For instance, iron deficiency is majorly one of the major causes of iron deficiency, anemia. Iodine deficiency causes goiter and cretinism. Vitamin A deficiency, xerophthalmia. Calcium deficiency and vitamin D deficiency are actually the major culprit for rickets and osteomalacia, and could be also a very big contributing factor to osteoporosis later in life. And then also zinc deficiency, and I won't be speaking much on that today. So what are the causes of nutrition deficiencies? This is to acknowledge the fact that we don't only just have nutritionists, dietitians, researchers today, we also have people from all other walks of life in our midst today. So when we talk, it could be as a result of inadequate ingestion. So an individual might not be able to have enough to eat, and which could be as a result of poverty, which could be as a result of seasonal, it could even be seasonal variation. It could be as a result of preferences and taste, or even social taboos about some kind of foods that we don't eat this kind of food in our environment. It could be as a result of nutritional deficiency, could be as a result of impaired digestion or absorption. So this individual is actually having enough to eat, but the body is not digesting it properly, or the body is not absorbing all the nutrients that it needs from the food that has been taken. It could be also as a function of dysfunctional metabolic processing or increased excretion of essential nutrients, whereby an individual takes enough, but the body just gets rid of most of it. So what are the consequences? Zahra showed a picture about what is attainable in the world now in terms of malnutrition. And I think this was the one that was published in 2016, whereby it was shown that 2 billion people suffer from some form of micronutrient deficiency, which is the hidden hunger, which is what we're addressing today. So about if 2 billion of people out of less than 8 billion, so as of the last counts, we are 7.8 billion. So that's like slightly over 1 in 4 people actually suffer from micronutrient deficiency. And the reason why it seems as if there might be not much of talk on it, because it's what is called hidden hunger. You cannot see it. If vitamin D deficient, for instance, you cannot see it. In fact, something personal, I didn't know I was vitamin D deficient until I came to work in a lab whereby we had to analyze my vitamin D, and I was like, oh God, oh boy, I needed to do something to get this up. So what are the consequences of this micronutrient deficiencies? We have impaired growth. It could impair the growth and development in childhood, and then even in adulthood. It could also, then it lowers resistance to infection, which is something we're talking about a lot today. It could result in poor wound healing if one gets injured, or poor clinical outcome from disease or trauma, or increased morbidity or mortality. So what is the relationship between nutrition, infection, and immunity? There is a bi-directional relationship between the three of them, because nutrient deficiencies adversely affect the immune system, and it predisposes individuals to infection. So several studies have shown that optimal immune function is dependent on a healthy immune system. Optimal immunocompetence depends on healthy nutritional status. So macronutrients and micronutrients are required for the development, maintenance, and expression of the immune response. So there are some specific micronutrients that have been identified that they are needed to sustain the immunocompetence, which includes vitamin A, C, D, E, B2, vitamin B6, vitamin B12, folic acid, iron, selenium, and zinc. Today, most of what I'll be discussing today is actually from a review paper that actually looked at, it's a recently released paper that looked at micronutrients and the immune system, how they work in harmony to reduce the risk of infections. So I have some slides that are just for references for people to go back on and check out later, because we're still going to send this presentations to you. But I would just like to pick up on something. So this paper by Gomberts et al. Did a very good job on reviewing what are the functions of micronutrients on the immune system and how do they work in harmony to reduce the risk of infection. So for instance, we all know what the elephant in the room is, COVID-19, and how do these micronutrients work together with the immune system to help us reduce the risk of this infection. So there are several layers of the immune system which are identified here, and then the types of immunity, which I will not get into, but I will encourage every one of us to pick up this article and read it, because we just have 15 minutes to discuss this. So one of the figures that they put here, which I find very important, which I would like to speak about, it summarizes the important components and processes that are involved in different aspects of both the innate and the adaptive immune responses. So for instance, what we have in this circle, I'll go back to the previous slides to highlight it properly. So when we're looking at the physical barriers, so our immunity starts from our skin, actually, because our skin acts as a physical barrier to some pathogens, doesn't allow them to come in. And vitamins, micronutrients like vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin C, vitamin E, B6, B12, folate, iron, and zinc actually contribute to the integrity of the skin. So in other words, in a way, they start helping us to fight infection right from the onset. If we look at the ones that are the one that regulates the inflammation in our system, we also see vitamin A, vitamin C, E, B6, zinc, iron, copper, selenium, and magnesium as well. So this actually gives us an overview of how important it is to be sure that we are not micronutrient deficient, because even while we're not watching or while we're sleeping, these micronutrients are working to make sure that our risk of infection is highly reduced. So for all these micronutrients, these 3 slides just speak about the recommended dietary allowance for these micronutrients. How much should a person have, or how much should a person take in a day, which is actually dependent on the age, and also whether you're female or male, whether you're an adult between the age of 19 to 50, or you're an older adult. So we will see that this slide just shows us all these important micronutrients and what our recommended daily allowance should be. So having spoken of that, what is the impact of these micronutrient deficiencies on our immune function? There is a thread that runs through for all these micronutrients, because I'm not going to read about the immune function, we can also say it. But for each of these micronutrients, so for instance, vitamin A, if it is deficient in the body, the individual has a decreased resistance to infection. So it means if one is vitamin A deficient, there is a decreased resistance to infection. If one is vitamin E deficient, then the person has a decreased resistance to infection. And it goes on and on for all these micronutrients, including iron, including zinc, including selenium, including magnesium. And then you see some of them actually, there is suppression of immune function when these micronutrients are not sufficient in the bloodstream or in the system, to speak. So picking specifically some non-communicable diseases, I will speak about iron deficiency anemia, which the studies that have been done on this have actually been done in children. So in 2016, there was a study that was published on 40 children that were diagnosed with iron deficiency anemia, and 60 controlled children from a pediatric hospital in Egypt. And what this study found out was that both humoral non-specific immunity and interleukin-6 are influenced in patients with iron deficiency anemia. What does this mean in plain terms? It just means that children with iron deficiency anemia have impaired immune function, impaired immune system when compared to children that do not have iron deficiency anemia. There was an earlier study in 2005 that looked at 32 children diagnosed with iron deficiency anemia and compared them to 29 controlled children. And this study also, in this case, so they identified 3. So in their case, they identified both humoral, cell-mediated, and non-specific immunity. So they're saying that children with iron deficiency anemia have lower resistance to immune infection, and then they have impaired immune systems when compared to children that don't have iron deficiency anemia. And then there was another study that was published in 2015, where it was 101 children that are diagnosed with iron deficiency anemia, and they broke it down into both cellular immunity, showing that children with iron deficiency anemia have lower serum neutrophils levels than the control. So their study also agrees with what has been published earlier to say that the humoral and cell-mediated immunity are affected by iron deficiency anemia. So it's not just what we can see, then it's also, so in this case, that means maybe it could be inferred that people with iron deficiency anemia might be more susceptible to COVID-19 infection, or to any other infection for that matter, compared to those who do not have this kind of deficiencies. Now, looking at vitamin D and calcium. So in 2015, for Zarowski looked at 25 children, 14 of which have been diagnosed and treated for vitamin D deficiency rickets earlier. And they compared them with children that had never had vitamin D deficiency rickets. And what they found, what was not surprising, the children that had rickets had higher history of bone fracture compared to control. This was not surprising. This is because we all know that vitamin D and calcium are building blocks for bone. Rickets case children also had a greater amount of enamel defects, which speaks about the teeth as well. And then they found out that what was a bit, will I say, surprising, but not so surprising, was that about 50% of the children that had been diagnosed with, that had vitamin D deficiency rickets, and these children have been diagnosed, they've been treated. So this was a follow-up study on those children. So they've been treated, so we could say they no longer have this. But however, 50% of those children had been diagnosed with asthma. So which is not traditionally related to rickets and what have you. So this speaks of the importance of vitamin D, calcium beyond bone and all. So having said all this, having identified all the problems with micronutrient deficiencies and all, how can we combat it? This number one, food-based approach leading to dietary diversification is my go-to choice as a nutrition professional. And if we look at what this recommended food guide 7 used to say, I'm using the one from Canada. It speaks about having an individual. So let's say a 28-year-old woman who is not pregnant, who is not breastfeeding, is supposed to have like 7 to 8 servings of vegetables and fruits on a day. And why I'm emphasizing fruits and vegetables is that this is where we get majority of micronutrients from, fruits and vegetables. So, but this seems to be a bit confusing for people because the question always comes up. So how do I know what is 1 serving of fruit? How do I know what is 1 serving of vegetable? And then this pictorial form has been a great help. It might be a nightmare for people in nutrition field to say, how do we quantify this? But for the people that are out there that are going to eat this food, knowing fully well that half of your plate is supposed to be made up of fruits and vegetables, half of your plate, meaning at every time you're eating, half of what you're eating should be made up of fruits and vegetables, whereby only a quarter of it makes up of the protein and a quarter makes up of your staples. So this gives a good, this is a good way to get the micronutrient status up and higher. And it also helps to fight. So it means where the goal is to get to that place where your body fights infection, or your body even helps you to prevent getting it to start with. So food-based approaches leading to dietary diversification is my number one go-to. Then we also have food fortification and biofortification. Food fortification has been very helpful at the community, not, I would say global, but at the same time at the country level, because when a food is fortified, the food is actually fortified with micronutrients in a quantity that when you take small, or when you take, it reaches everybody. Everybody can have access to it when it's being sold in the market, and it's actually been used to, for instance, salt, iodization of salt has been used to get rid of goiter and cretinism in a lot of countries and a lot of places. The third one will be supplementation, which is actually the method of choice to address severe micronutrient deficiency, particularly when it gets to the clinical stage, or when it gets to the clinical stage, and even before it gets to the clinical stage. Supplementation has been really good. If you supplement with supplement for micronutrients to make sure that you are at optimum level. Now, the fourth one is using complementary public health control measures. What does this mean? For instance, for example, at clinics, when a child is being taken to a clinic for diarrhea, it's been one of the things that's been helping is that they supplement that child with vitamin A, and so improvement of vitamin A status through diarrheal disease control is actually a complementary health public health control measure. Also, coupling the deworming with iron supplementation to control anemia has been another good one. So I just before I end, because I know I have like a minute more, this recommendation for combating micronutrient deficiency is a community-based nutrition strategy model that was proposed in Latin America and the Caribbean, whereby we diversify agricultural production. What do I mean by that? So a small farmer who has been planting cash crops or staples is actually encouraged and taught on the need to plant vegetables. And what that has been shown to do over time is when you plant it, you tend to eat it. You plant it, you can get it to a stage whereby you sell it as well, but you get to eat it. And this leads to dietary diversity, which is what I was speaking of earlier, because the more diverse the diet, the healthier it is. And then not talking about moving into the nutrition transition whereby you have more of fats in your food, no, more of salt, no, more of sugar, no. But when you are having the fruits and vegetables that are added to your staples in the quantity that it should be, it's been proven to help a great deal. Then sustainable farm management, teaching a community how to sustain their farm. For instance, if someone has a farm, you can teach them how to recycle rainwater and how to use it to make their plants to grow. Then identifying and supporting local producers organizations. So when you have farmers that have gotten to the level whereby, let's say they started planting ugu leaves, for example. Ugu is Igbo name for one of the vegetables. I think it's pumpkin leaves, yes. So if a farmer has gotten to a stage whereby they can sell it in the market, you organize a cooperative, farmers cooperative, whereby they get to buy things that they will plant for cheaper prices, and this has been shown to help the community to be able to diversify their dietary intake. Also, supporting the establishment of agro-industry. This is also very, very important. For instance, there was one of the studies that one of the researchers I was privileged to work on in South Africa at a point, we discovered that a particular vulnerable community, they were still being folate deficient, despite the fact that every staple food in South Africa is fortified with folic acid. Then what was discovered was that it is cheaper for this vulnerable community to buy their mealies directly from the farmer. And when they buy directly from the farmer, this is not fortified. So what did they do? So what they did was there was an incentive for the places, because when they buy it, they still need to take it to a place where they mill it. So when the incentive was now to get the millers to fortify at the point of milling, and that has been a great improvement. Then monitoring and evaluating this. So at the basis of this is nutrition education, whereby you teach people about the vicious circle of malnutrition, like Zahra showed. When you show people that if a pregnant woman, for instance, is having the diet is not good, it has an effect on the pregnancy, has an effect on the child, has intergenerational effects down the line. So when people know, people consciously work to break this circle. Talk about behavior change communication to improve to improve vulnerable populations, utilization of health services, clean water, good sanitation, and water services, promotion of benefits of exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months and then beyond. This last slide was actually something that I took from a paper recently published, also 2020, for how to help pregnant women, pregnant women, maternal and child, in the time of COVID-19. And this also speaks. It also speaks for what we are speaking about for micronutrient deficiencies. For instance, providing food insecurity interventions. We've said it, people will eat what they can afford to buy. If what they can afford to buy is just calorie-dense foods, they will eat just that. Providing social protection programs, providing access to healthcare, education program, and then getting political buy-ins. Keep speaking to our politicians to ensure that we get everything we need. I wanted to close with a quote, but I can see that my screen has frozen, but I know I will have the opportunity to close with the quotes later. So what we are saying is that we need to work hand in hand to make sure we at the individual level, we need to do our part, which is diversifying our diets to make sure that we get enough fruits and vegetables in to be able to help us for our body to make good use of it. Thank you so much to the moderator for the opportunity.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Shora. I didn't want to interrupt you. Actually, the time is already gone, but still we have 10 minutes to get few questions from our participants. So far, I just got only 2 questions. The first one is it possible to share the presentations, please? The second one is food-based dietary guidelines has seen very little attention across Africa, as way back in 2014 when I worked on close to client nutrition counseling. We virtually used a guideline from the USA. How is David's engaging stakeholders to internalize food-based dietary guidelines in Africa? This question came from Abdul Razak. So far I just got only these 2 questions. Yeah, would you please react on this?
Yeah, thank you, Mohammed. I believe that was a question that was directly aimed at me. Yes. So it's true that our food-based dietary guidelines are seeing little attention across Africa. And then what is Bet Davids as an organization doing for this? So this is one of the things we're doing. This is engaging nutrition professionals across Africa. So if you've seen any of our webinars, we've had several speakers from across Africa, and then sitting down. So that would be the next step, like you said, sitting down to see how do we get this food-based dietary guidelines, because it has been a great help. And then, for instance, I was being careful because we can say if we do not do research to know what kind of fruits and vegetables are available in this community that I want to work in, what kind of fruits and vegetables will actually grow in this kind of soil. We cannot just come and say to them, oh, you need to eat granny apple, 2 granny apples every day, 6 granny apples every day. Where are they going to get that from? So we need to work indigenously, so from inside outside and from outside inside. So that is a challenge. Thank you so much, Mohammed. That is a challenge that we hope to do something about going forward. And that challenge, I believe, also goes to Aregash as well, covering the Ethiopian angle. And I could see Wanjiku and a couple of other colleagues that are here also, that we need to sit down and talk about that.
Thank you, Dr. Olusola. And Dr. Zahra, do you have any additional input on this?
You're still on mute. Unmute yourself.
I just want to say that to acknowledge the platform that you created, Shola. This is like to having the speaker from different background and talking from different region somehow give us also understanding what type of, like, for instance, intervention if you want to do at a specific region. So because the people come and talk, they include studies sometimes from the region that they are, as you mentioned, one of your studies when you were at South Africa. So that also give us like understanding of like the local situation. And obviously that's happened gradually. We cannot create something overnight. I just want to say that this platform eventually can get us to that goal.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much for thoughtful input, Dr. Zahra. Yes, as nutritionists and as researchers and as educated people, I think we have to do our part to reach our community. So this is a very useful presentation. Thank you once again. So far, I just got only one more question. I think this goes to Dr. Solo. It says, is baked debits available to individuals? And the second question is, as a registered dietitian, what courses can I do to update myself? So I think, and the third question is, can we rely on food-based dietary guideline development as Africa to improve the micronutrient deficiencies and other form of malnutrition? Would you please respond on this?
So I'll speak about the first one that says, can we rely on food-based dietary guidelines to improve the micronutrient deficiencies and other form of malnutrition? I would say it has to be a four-pronged approach, like we said. So it has to be, a lot has to be done on the food-based dietary guidelines, and it would be a really good way to start as well. Then also speaking to our policymakers on the need, and I know that a lot of our countries in Africa have done a great job of food fortification, and we should just make sure that what has been fortified is being monitored and evaluated. So there was an incident that happened in one of the Asian countries right now. I'm not too sure if it was Cambodia. I can't remember, whereby a product was actually being sold to have been fortified with iron, and sadly this product was actually sold to infants, and they just noticed that a lot of these infants were about parents just noticed that all their about 13 infants that were admitted for iron deficiency anemia, and it was very severe. And then they realized that they were all on this infant formula. And then they wrote to the government, and the government decided to ask a body to come and analyze the products blindly that were being sold. And then it was discovered that what was written on the label is not actually what was in it. So about 5% of, if they say they had 100 whatever of iron, it was just 5 of it that was in. And this was, so it's monitoring and evaluation. We cannot overemphasize how that is important. When we are talking about food fortification, we don't just leave it to say, oh, all our salt, for instance, all our salt is iodized, and then nobody knows if what is supposed to be in it is actually in it. We cannot just keep saying everything is, we have folates in all our cereals that has been sold in the market, and we don't know how that goes. Then the need for supplementation also, it's important, particularly if it has been proven, or you've known that you are low on this micronutrients, I think the easiest way, or one of the, I would say, to get it up, at least to jumpstart it, you go in for supplementation. So I hope that answers Kifue's response. But then we definitely need to do something about our food-based dietary guidelines. As to if Bet David's International is available to individuals, yes, it is available to individuals, and then you can reach out to us on on the website, and we'll talk about that. I cannot remember the third question, Dr. Aregash.
The third one is about being a dietitian. It says, as a registered dietitian, what courses can I do to update myself?
Okay, so it depends on which part of the world you are, but then the reality now is that whichever the part of the world you are in, you can update yourself. And I know that several national dietetic bodies have programs that you have to do to maintain your accreditation. I think you need to take that very serious. And then look out for institutions, check online, look out for institutions that have courses for on nutritional issues. And then reading review articles are really cheap ways.
Recent articles, yeah.
Exactly. Reading review articles, because this is like a set of people sat down over 3 years, collated all the information from this document, and then they put it in a paper. So reading articles, it's a very, very good way of updating yourself on evidence-based new researches. Thank you.
And also, Shola, usually like all like for instance, Canadian Nutrition Society, American Nutrition Society, they all have their annual like webinar or webinar, which also can help us like to get updated.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. I see Heba giving comment. She's also suggesting to check EDX,
yes,
for very good nutrition
courses.
Thank you, Heba, for that thoughts. Yeah. And there are also other comments, but they are not questions. Like people are commenting, like you can look for free online courses on nutrition during adolescence, for example,
yes,
on the Nutrition International website.
Yes, a lot of us
from, yeah, one person commented this, and I think, yeah, the other comment is just, it's a complimentary comment. So thank you once again. If I read all comments, then we will have we will have to spend a lot of time. But I think this was very informative and very useful time. We have spent very productive 1 hour of teaching and hearing from our renowned speakers. Thank you, Dr. Zahra and Dr. Shola, for your nice presentation. And thank you, our participants. Thank you all for being with us today. Now I think it's time to wind up our session. So I will pass on to our speakers to give their final say. So first I invite Dr. Zahra to say a few words, and then Dr. Shola to continue and to give us also a concluding remarks. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Zahra.
Sure. Yeah, I just want to emphasize that we need to keep in mind that overnutrition and non-communicable disease per se, they are preventable. So we need action. We need effective nutritional intervention, and to maximize the beneficial effect, it's very important to have life course approach and to do early life intervention. That really help us. And obviously, this is a problem that needs collaboration, contribution from all sectors at all levels. So, and this is like lifestyle intervention. And just also know that when we are correcting nutrition, it's not all about nutrition. We are affecting other part of lifestyle as well. We are like improving the mental health, which is really issue in current situation, mental and social health. So that's my point. Like just keep in mind that we can prevent all this problem. We just need action at the right moment.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Zahra. My concluding question, my concluding comments will be: nutrition is everybody's business. So everybody should be interested in nutrition. Everybody, because we all eat, and then it affects every aspect of our lives, like Zahra said. So let's keep the conversation alive, and then we go beyond the conversation. We take action. We become more active. We consciously choose what we eat, and we consciously encourage others to do the same. So I'd like to use this opportunity to thank you all for coming. I want to especially say thank you to Zahra. Thank you so much for joining us today. And to Dr. Aregash, thank you so much. So thank you. You've done an amazing job, and it's been a real pleasure getting to meet with you and then having the opportunity for you to moderate this session today. And to everyone that came, I really like to say thank you. We look forward to having you again at our next webinar, which is, because this is a monthly webinar, which will be taking place in October. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. And for those that are almost going to bed, have a beautiful night rest. So thank you. You can put on your video at this stage to say bye to your friend, or say anything you want to say to your friend, but we've officially closed so that people can leave.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Zahra.